Over the years on this program, we've taken you around the world to see some of the finest and most impressive real railroads ever built by man. And we've taken you from coast to coast to see the most unbelievable model railroad layouts you could ever imagine. But have you ever seen a railroad that was big enough to ride on, but not big enough to ride in? To answer that riddle, we'll take you to a rural country setting in western Michigan.
Cedar Springs, Michigan looks as lovely as it sounds. It is small town, middle America, beautiful country. You will see pretty much what you might expect to see. What you would not expect to see is one of the largest and most impressive 1/8 scale railroads in the world. Often described as the type of railroad you can ride on, but not in, 1/8 scale is truly built for fun. And it's here, near Cedar Springs, where Russ and Mara Eldred built their White Creek Railroad. Construction began more than a decade ago, just a few months after Russ retired from his job as a high school teacher. He had always wanted to build something, anything, he could ride on, but he wasn't sure what.
And then I was in my teaching career, and after I retired, I said, now's the time I can maybe do something. I called a friend. I said, do you know of any trains you can ride on? He says, no, but I'll call you back if I find out anything. He called me back a few minutes later and says, sure, there's a track down at Battle Creek, Michigan that you can ride on. So I went down the next day and looked around and watched and got a ride and talked to some people and talked with a guy that builds engines, and I said, I'll get back with you in a few days. And a few days later, I called him and ordered an engine and 10,000 feet of rail, and come home and started building the shop and started building the railroad. The roadbed was laid out by me, and I walked through the woods with stakes and staked where I wanted the railroad to go, and it took dozens of trips out there and staking various places, and then finally deciding where I wanted the railroad to go. And then I hire in a bulldozer and say, clear a path. And then we start laying track.
Back in 1994, Bill Hayes, who's associated with a railroad over on the east side of Michigan, told me there was a fellow that had a trailer park that was putting in a railroad. And he was supposed to have 2 miles of track that he put down in 11 months' time. Now, all of us know you can't put track down that fast. It can't be done. So Bill Hayes, myself, and my neighbor came over to prove this guy a liar. And we got over here to the White Creek Railroad. Sure enough, he had 2 miles of track down.
When I originally started, I figured it was going to be a half-a-mile loop and around the pond, and that was going to be it. And then after the half a mile, well, I'd like to go here. So I added a little bit more, and then so the first year we added a mile or two total, and then it's been sort of a mile every year thereafter until last year. We're done laying track now.
If it looks like it goes on forever, it's because it does. The White Creek Railroad consists of over 5 miles of mainline track laid out over 100 acres of land. It's land on which the Eldreds also operate sites for manufactured housing. The train winds through densely wooded hills and open fields. It meanders across marshy lowlands and past 2 picturesque lakes. There are hundreds of switches and a half-dozen trestles ranging in length from 60 feet to more than 300 feet.
It's a fantastic piece of property for what we're doing with it because of the variety of the layout and the water and the woods and the hills and the grasslands. And we bought the property mainly for the business, the manufactured housing community. And that's the primary purpose of the business, and the railroad just happened to come along.
This is a work in progress, and it took lots of people putting in lots of hours.
How did I get dragged into this? A friend of mine, well, I've been in model railroading for many, many years. My uncle used to work for the railroad, so I kind of always had a fondness for the stuff. A friend who had been involved with this stuff on the other side of the state said, I got something you need to see. I said, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. He says, let me see if we can get you invited. So he brought me up here, and I go, this is pretty neat. Which by the end of the day, I walked to Russ and said, so like, I live over here. Do you need some help on Saturdays? Because I can come up most Saturdays. He says, that'd be a change. So yeah, I'm here. I come up here pretty much every Saturday year round. And we're up here anywhere from, maybe the least is 4 hours on a Saturday, as much as 8 or 10. So you figure over the last 4 or 5 years, that adds up a pretty good chunk of time.
The 7.5-inch gauge track supports some awfully big pieces of machinery. The locomotives are about 16 inches wide and vary in length from about 3 to 10 feet. The rolling stock, and there's lots of it, is approximately 5 feet long, 1.5 feet wide, and 1.5 feet high. Each one weighs anywhere from 100 to 250 pounds.
Engines can be bought ready-made from a variety of manufacturers in the United States. Same thing with cars, rolling stock they're called. Or you can buy them as kits, or kits with all the holes drilled in them. Or you can just buy a pile of steel and start building your own.
I like working with my hands on things. I like fabricating stuff, so it's just an opportunity to come up and bolt things together. And when you're done with it, you look back and say, wow, that's pretty neat when you got done. So whether it's putting down track or building a boxcar or one of the locomotives that we built here, we have a good time doing it. It's you know, the camaraderie amongst the guys, among other things too, but know a lot about railroads, so we come up and chit-chat, but it's the fun of getting out the welders and the cutting torches and start cutting metal and start welding something together. When you get done, it almost looks like something it should. So.
The White Creek Railroad is an operational railroad, meaning that it hosts an average of 10 to 20 trains switching rolling stock at the same time. People come from far and wide, not just to look, but to work this railroad.
Well, you actually feel like you're on a full-size train because you're riding the trains when you're going around the railroad. It's really better than the full-size because on the full-size you don't really get the view we do on these because you have the massive engine in front of you that you can't see around too well.
I came up from Ridgeway, Virginia, some 800 miles from here. And we come up at least twice a year, sometimes 3 times a year, to play with the trains, meet with the guys. If you think about it, we're one big happy family. If somebody's got a problem, if I've got a problem with something on the engine, nobody's happy here till I'm fixed and able to go out on the railroad and run. So it's just a great hobby for everybody.
Well, I'd say each state has anywhere from 10 to 15 to 20 inch-and-a-half railroads. Most people don't even know they exist. They're on private property generally, and unless you know someone that's been there, you don't find out about it. The railroads are unique in the fact they're not a tourist attraction. They're really not open to the public because of liability problems, and we're not geared to haul the public. And that's why most people that have them don't let people know that they're there.
I enjoy coming home from work and taking a ride on the railroad. It's very peaceful and quiet and relaxing.
It's very enjoyable to have people come and visit and enjoy the railroad with us and enjoy the scenery, and it's how do I say it? It's boring when nobody's here.
For Russ and Mara Eldred, the White Creek Railroad is more than just a hobby. They have invested countless hours into something now worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. For the Eldreds, it has been worth every hour and every penny.